Everybody in the fitness industry seems to be avoiding fatigue at all costs to make the best gains possible. It's gotten to an extreme in my opinion, but there's one thing that these people get right, and that's that too much fatigue will limit muscle growth. There are three types of fatigue that you should consider while either observing your current training program or making a new one. Knowing the three types of fatigue is useful as a beginner and will become necessary to make gains further down the line. So with further ado, let's dive into the first type of fatigue, local fatigue. Local fatigue is fatigue within a certain muscle. Each muscle has its own local fatigue. The biceps have local fatigue, the traps, the lats, you name it. That means that you can overtrain one or more muscle groups, while other muscle groups are perfectly fine making gains. Let's say that you train back and biceps 2 times a week, Monday and Thursday. If you hammer your biceps with 8 sets to failure and only do 2 sets for your back, the back may have been fully recovered and ready to train Wednesday, while your biceps aren't even recovered the Thursday session. Each muscle has its own limits. Some muscles, typically smaller muscles like the biceps and side delts, don't benefit as much from totally racking, but recover quickly, while larger muscles like the quads, for example, can take a lot of damage but take longer to recover. These are just examples of what is typical, but everybody's muscles have different recovery times and different ability to take damage. Your quads may not handle much and recover quickly, but the only way to find out is through trial and error and being observant. The second type of fatigue is joint fatigue. The stronger you get, the more you have to start thinking about joint fatigue. Like local fatigue within muscles, each joint has its own recoverability. If you push through pain, it could eventually lead to irreversible damage, making the joint more achy and sensitive for life. I push through minimal pain, but if it exceeds a certain threshold, there's something that I have to change. The third type of fatigue is systemic fatigue. Before I talked about each muscle having its own recovery limits, systemic fatigue is the limit of the whole system or your body. As systemic fatigue rises, the recovery limit of each muscle lowers. You may, for example, find out that the recovery limit of your biceps is 5 sets 3 times a week, but you found that out before you started training legs. Then you decide to add 2 leg days into your plan, and suddenly 5 sets 3 times a week becomes way too much for your biceps. Lowering the volume of your biceps could allow them to keep on progressing while building the rest of your body, but sometimes systemic fatigue is so high from doing way too much overall volume that you can't build any muscle. Then it's probably time to deload and lower overall volume. Another thing to keep in mind is that systemic fatigue affects joint fatigue. While I was pushing volume really high a few months ago, almost every joint in my body was feeling achy. The high volume phase had its benefits, but I had to be really careful to not go over any limits and ruin my joints. This was a brief introduction into the 3 types of fatigue and how they affect each other. I hope this comes to use in your programming and that you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments down below. I will otherwise just see you in the next one. Peace.